Radio, VA1 Radio. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio.
Our Almighty God, Creator of heaven and earth, Father and lover of our soul, you sit on your throne of mercy and rule with your love and faithfulness. You are full of grace. We acknowledge your presence in our lives. Nothing is hidden in your eyes, even our challenges and struggles in life. We come to you with faith. We ask not only for our daily spiritual bread, but to seek your forgiveness and undeserving favor to heal our land, our family members, our friends and neighbors, even our enemies with COVID-19 and other diseases. Holy Spirit, help us to deepen our faith and see the opportunity to believe, obey, and worship. As we face this pandemic, you are Lord and God. Encourage us and change our hearts, not to fear, but to be full of hope and find ourselves praying and meditating your word. We believe no works of the enemy prosper to your children. Abba, Father, we believe that your Son Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. He is the truth and our salvation. Hear our prayers, O Lord, and most of all, not our will, but thy will be done. We pray this in Jesus' name, the name above all names, who was and is to come. Amen.
Naghahatid saya sa mga Pinoy, mga kanta at programang Tatak Pinoy. Napapanood at napapakinggan kahit saan ka man. Streaming worldwide. In South Manila, this is V81 Radio.
Malayo ka man sa iyong pamilya, dito ay hindi ka nag-iisa. Tiyak ito'y iyong hahanap-hanapin, dahil ito ang nagpapasaya sa atin. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio. Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits, all Pinoy, panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan. Kahit nasaan ka man, ito'y mapapakinggan. Oh, VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Dahil Dahil mahal namin kayo. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. Dahil mahal namin kayo. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by the host do not necessarily state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests do not reflect those of the host, the show, this station, the management, and the network. Welcome to Pride and Proud Asia, Asia's first online radio show that champions LGBT contribution and leadership in business and in our country and the region. Hosted by the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce, visibility, representation, and empowerment. This is Pride and Proud Asia. Happy Pride!
Happy Pride! Welcome to Pride and Proud Asia, where we put a spotlight on LGBTQIA+ leadership and inspiring stories in business and beyond. I am your host for the evening, your equality advocate, your partner in LGBT business, and with all humility, your HOTtorney-at-Law, Attorney Quino Reyes. So Pride and Proud Asia is brought to you by the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce in proud partnership with V81 Radio Manila. And in Pride and Proud Asia, we wish to share LGBTQIA+ stories that will hopefully make you hear us more, see us more, and love us more. Kaya samahan nyo kami sa isa na namang masaya at nakakapamulat na episode ng programang ito kasama ang mga miyembro ng LGBT community at ang aming mga kasama or mga allies. And to complete tonight's power duo, let me call on my co-host for tonight, the one and only Skin Sensei, Dr. Winlove Mojica. Happy Pride, Win, and belated Happy World AIDS Day.
Hello, Quino. Hi, nice to see you, sexy attorney. Belated. Actually,
Nice to see you again.
para sa akin, every day is World AIDS Day. Parang Pride. Ikaw, anong ginawa mo kahapon to celebrate World AIDS Day?
Actually, marami mga week-long ang celebration or commemorations ng World AIDS Day for me. So I'm organizing some events, attending some of them. So ayun, with different NGOs and organizations. We actually have another one tomorrow pa. And I'm glad that today's episode of Pride and Proud Asia is about World AIDS Day. It's a very timely topic.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Ako naman, wala akong masyadong ganap yesterday, pero ngayon marami regarding HIV and World AIDS Day. Tapos, nag-renew na rin ako ng membership sa International AIDS Society. So, dyan, ako personally, dahil hindi naman ako talaga exclusive na HIV field yung ginagalawan ko. So, dyan ako kumukuha ng mga information about developments in the field of HIV and AIDS prevention. So, there. That's how I celebrate.
That's fascinating. But I can't believe, Rinwin, na, of course, World AIDS Day is on December 1st, right? But I can't believe na December 2021 na tayo. But parang, 2021 flew by just like that. So, ikaw, I mean, if you were to encapsulate 2021, how would you describe it in one word?
Para siyang whirlwind. Hindi mo maintindihan kung ano yung emotion mo. Parang may mga bagay na dapat kang ipagdalamhati, ipag-grieve, pero wala kang time para mag-grieve. Katulad ng may mga namatay akong kaibigan, may namatay akong mga kakilala, personal na kakilala. Pero hindi ka makaiyak kasi parang marami kang kailangang asikasuhin, marami kang kailangang turuan, kasi teacher ako, marami kang kailangang turuan, mga residente, estudyante, tapos ako personally rin yung parang errands person sa family, kasi isang anak lang ako. So, ang hirap mag-process nitong 2021. Kung mahirap yung 2020, parang feeling ko, nag-try mag-adjust ng mga tao na parang have a semblance of normalcy. Pero parang feeling ko, a little bit, medyo mas naging toxic dahil everybody's on Zoom, lahat nag-Zoom. So, hindi ka makahinga. Sobrang toxic. Yun ang aking 2021. How about you, attorney?
My gosh, I think you speak for a lot of people. It's like it's almost like the same thing. Na see, as much as you want to live a normal life, whatever that means in this day and age, and you kind of go through the motions of it. But there are still so many events that are, important, pero parang hindi mo sila actually fully understand or fully ma-experience. So as you mentioned, including, passing of loved ones, or something could be more mundane, like, learning again, studying again or something like that. So for me, it's parang it's all of those things jumbled into this big, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's a mess, pero parang it's more like a blur. Na hindi mo na, ang dami nangyari, pero looking back, parang ano nga ba yung nangyari? Diba?
By the way, you mentioned you're back to school, correct?
Oh, well, not necessarily. I just recently I finished my mandatory continuing legal education, MCLE. So all lawyers have to take a certain number of units every 3 years, so every cycle. So it's like going back to school rin. So bored ka most of the time. Especially kung yung topic hindi mo naman field of practice, di ba? Pero yeah, at least thankfully tapos na naman yun. So again, it's something pala na I did recently na it's substantial, pero it's all part of that blur that is 2021. My goodness.
Hindi natin namalayan, December na, no? Parang ako, for the first time, itong buong taon, hindi na ako nag-aircon. So, ibig sabihin, bababa na yung kuryente ko. Kasi December na. So, naisip ko, wow, parang kailan lang sobrang init. Hindi ko matiis yung init. Ngayon, hindi na ako nag-aircon kasi malamig. Hindi na natin napansin. And hopefully, last Christmas na ito and next year sana matapos na talaga yung pandemya. The cases are going down. Hopefully hindi na makapasok yung variant sa atin, and dito sa Philippines mabawasan na yung nagkakaroon ng cases para at least ma-process na natin kung ano yung nangyari sa atin ng last 1 to 2 years, no?
Exactly. And part of processing is also making sure now we learn from everything that's happened, diba? And we set up processes and systems that will, enable us to, make sure that this doesn't happen again, or be in a position to better respond to it if it happens again. Diba?
Correct.
So hopefully the government can address those issues. And just like, for example, in a little bit, we're gonna go to our news segments, which involves a lot of government issues in mind as well. But before we do that, though, I just want to remind our listeners and viewers that Win and I, are members of the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And it is an opportune time for us to present this radio program because it's part of our goals of amplifying voices of the members of the LGBTQIA+ community. And we do that by focusing on developing an inclusive workplace and environment, championing LGBTQIA+ leadership, and sharing best practices across industries and geographic boundaries. So if you are watching us live, feel free to comment and to send us private messages. We're glad to hear from you, and we'd be delighted to interact with you over the course of this episode. Simulan na natin ang ating programa with some news headlines. Pasok, Win.
So punta na tayo sa ating pink news all over the world at malalaman natin yung mga LGBT-related news sa iba't ibang dako ng bansa at iba't ibang dako ng daigdig. All expenses paid. So lipad muna tayo. Ang ating first stop ay Hungary. Okay. Thousands joined Budapest Pride March against anti-LGBTQ law. Okay? So ano ba ang masasabi natin dito? Kasi dito sa mga lugar na to, Russia and Hungary, parang bumabaligtad imbis na nagpo-progress ang society, meron pa rin mga conservatives na ayaw nila ng anything LGBTQ related. Ano masasabi mo dyan, Attorney Quino, bilang ikaw ay isang alagad ng law?
Ako na medyo na-frustrate ako sa mga ganitong developments, Win. Siguro to let our viewers know rin. So the law assailed here, na actually napasa, was a law that was enacted by the Hungarian parliament. And gusto nila, marami silang nire-regulate actually. The supposed goal of the law was to protect children or minors. So maganda naman yung goal ng batas, di ba? Problema, yung pag-i-implement ng batas yung problema, yung part of the law. So sinasabi dun sa law na bawal magturo sa mga bata ng mga topics that promote homosexuality. So that includes, scientific topics like, for example, SC, so sexuality, gender identity, gender orientation. Of course, it deprives transgender people of access to information. And then that applies to school. For example, hindi na pwede ituro sa mga estudyante yon, regardless of age. And then that also affects the media. Kasi dahil bawal na yun, hindi na pwedeng mag-show ng diversity, for example, ang mga programa sa television. So, automatically, kukunti na ang mga LGBT characters or mga storylines sa mga, pelikula at mga TV show. So, wide-ranging yung effects ng law. Maganda yung supposed na goals niya, pero ang dami niyang mga ina-affect na aspects ng education and media and of course business too. So yun yung effect nung law. A lot of people rallied against it, but unfortunately na-enact pa rin siya.
Yeah. So napakahirap niyan, especially nga katulad din sa ating third world country, very conservative. Kailangan ng parang mamulat ng mata ng mga kabataan kung sino ba yung mga role models na gusto nilang masundan. And unfortunately, kung magkakaroon ka ng mga laws na ganyan, nagpo-prohibit na maglabas ng characters na LGBT in media, nalilimit yung view ng mga bata kung ano ba yung pwedeng maging sila. Diba? Hindi naman lahat talaga ng bata is cisgender and heterosexuals, diba? Part of the normality yung pagiging LGBT. So, yung mga batang questioning about their gender identity, lalo lang sila maguguluhan kasi lalo lang maperpetuate yung thinking na there's something wrong with them, na sila ay abnormal kapag hindi sila nakakita ng ibang tao na katulad nila. So, I agree with you, Attorney Quino. This is a boot, not a toot.
Definitely. And I just want to point out, it's not media and it's not school, not teachers that make people LGBTQIA+. For example, I don't want to reveal our age, Win, pero we grew up at a time when there wasn't much or maybe there wasn't any diversity and representation in media. So, sabihin na natin early 90s o late 80s, early 90s. Diba? So wala naman gano'n na panahon na yun, di ba? Wala namang mga gay characters on TV na madami, di ba? Pakonti-konti lang, usually stereotype pa.
Yes,
pero
correct.
We are still members of the LGBTQIA+ community, di ba? So the media, television, entertainment, schools are not the reason for this, di ba? And depriving people of access to important information based on that flawed theory is talagang inimical to especially the youth.
Yeah.
So yes,
I remember talking to one teacher who happens to be a parent after discussion on Soji sa sa Albay. Tapos sabi niyang ganyan, kumbaga after nung talk ko, parang ang daming tumayo to hug me kasi nagulat sila na parang wow, ang ganda nung Soji SC lecture mo. Tapos merong isang bothered teacher na parang paano yan, Doc? Parang nag-one-on-one siya sa akin. Kasi yung anak ko, pinagbawalan ko na lumapit sa teacher niya na LGBT. Kasi napansin ko, iba na yung sayaw niya. Baka mahawa yung anak ko sa kanya. Sabi ko, alam niyo po sir, hindi ho mahahawa yung anak niyo. Hindi siya magiging something na hindi talaga siya. So, kung LGBT po talaga yung anak niyo, LGBT po talaga siya. Pero kung hindi siya LGBT, kahit na
pakembutin mo pa siya turuan pa siya ng sayo na kumikembot or hindi talaga siya magiging ganon. No? So, parang nagulat siya, napaisip siya na, kasi di ba parang papaano kung yung teacher na yon tinuturuan sila ng iba't ibang styles ng dancing, di ba? So, natideprive yung anak nyo na malaman yung mga iba-ibang repertoire, yung mga iba-ibang choreography, especially kung yung anak nyo dun siya magaling. So, I agree with you, kailangan ng representation na makita ng mga kabataan. And laws like this will only be prohibitive, anti-progress. Ayan.
Definitely.
So, okay. So, umalis na tayo sa Hungary dahil nabusog na tayo sa sa diskriminasyon at stigma and discrimination. Pero, yung lilipatan pa rin nating country ay puno pa rin ng stigma and discrimination against the LGBT. We now move to Russia. Okay. So, same. So, statement by Russian and International Human Rights Organization in support of Russian LGBT rights activists, again, under attack, no? So, Keynes, Attorney Keynes, in relation dito sa law sa Hungary, parang nauna itong Russia na magsabi na bawal magpalabas ng mga LGBT themed shows sa general media dito sa Russia. And ito na nga, may naglabas ng statement itong Russian International Human Rights Organization. Dahil ikaw ay haligi ng batas, ano ang masasabi mo?
I think this follows very closely the Hungarian news na we shared earlier. So same thing naman daw. So maganda supposedly yung goals ng batas eh. So ito naman yung batas nila specifically requires certain organizations, including NGOs and non-profits, to declare themselves as foreign agents if they receive funding from abroad. And so one of the biggest organizations na affect nito is the Russian LGBT Network, which is an NGO. Okay? And so ang supposed goal of the law is to prevent money laundering. So lofty rin naman yung goal, di ba? Prevent crime, make sure that taxes are paid, all of that. Ang problema, again, in the implementation eh. So the moment kasi na ang isang organisasyon ay makonsider na foreign agent under Russian law, ang dami ng requirements for that organization. So marami siyang kailangan na additional reports. Meron siyang effect sa tax status ng organization. Sa lahat ng mga pinapublish o didistribute na information or literature or videos ng organization na yon, kailangan i-label niya ang sarili niya as a foreign agent. So automatically, that will also decrease the number of, for example, of donations that these NGOs can get kasi nga considered foreign agent na sila. Yeah. So, the lofty yung goal ng law, pero in its implementation, parang sinasakal niya yung mga different NGOs na kino-consider na foreign agent. And considering nga na Russia is a rather conservative society, a lot of the LGBT organizations in Russia get their funding from abroad kasi they can't get it from home, diba? In that case, marami sa mga LGBT NGOs in Russia will be considered foreign agents at mahihirapan sila mag-operate under this environment.
Grabe, no? Pag ganyan talaga, malaki yung role ng government kasi sila yung gumagawa ng laws. So, tayo sa Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce, we are also urging our government to pass anti-discriminatory laws that will support LGBT individuals. No? Katulad ng SOGI bill na iniintay na natin for the last 20 years. So, kapag wala mga ganitong mga batas, tapos may mga batas pa na magpapahirap sa buhay natin, talagang may hirapan tayo na i-promote ang fight natin against stigma and discrimination. Mga tao kasi, porkit hindi sila parte sa isang minority, katulad natin, mga sexual and gender minorities, parang feeling nila, hindi kami maapektuhan. Pero hindi nila nakikita yung everyday suffering ng mga tao belonging to this community. So, this is a boot. This is not a toot.
Definitely a boot.
Pero yung statement nung ano na yun, LGBT org na yun is laudable, commendable. Kailangan talaga sila maging visible and active, ilabas ang kanilang saloobin na dapat gumawa ng mga policies and laws ang government na will support such such endeavors, no, such organizations.
Exactly.
Okay, so pumunta tayo sa Hungary and Russia at parehong boot. Hindi tayo masyadong nag-enjoy dyan sa mga countries na yan. Although, ang ganda ng mga architecture dyan, Quino, gusto kong pumunta one day sa Hungary tsaka sa Russia. Pero kung hindi LGBT friendly, ang nakakatakot. Yung pamaypay ko pa naman ay rainbow flag. Usually, pag nag-travel ako, dadala ko talaga ng rainbow flag. Basta ng pamaypay kasi mapawisin ako, mahilig lang ako maglakad. So anyway, we will move now to the country, US of A. Okay. So sabi dito, LGBTQIA military leaders to salute on Veterans Day. So parang simula nung naging presidente si Trump, nagkaroon ng reversal ng mga policies na parang na-resume yung don't ask, don't tell na kung ikaw ay LGBTQIA+, nanganganib ka, especially kung parte ka ng military, no? So, nagkaroon ng maraming backlash sa LGBT community. Maraming nagsuffer ng illegal dismissal, dishonorable dismissal dahil sila ay LGBTQ+. Pero according, dahil nga nanalo si Biden, a few days na after niyang maluklok as presidente ng United States of America, ni-repeal niya yung sinabi ni Trump na bawal ka maging LGBT or maging trans pag ikaw ay military. So ngayon, kabaligtaran na nangyayari, bibigyan pagpupugay itong mga LGBTQIA+ individuals na nasa military sa kanilang Veterans Day. Attorney Quino, what can you say?
I was reading the stories of the different individuals that they will honor. And the other than the last one, yung current, but the rest I think have passed away na eh. Yung common theme sa kanila is they were all either dishonorably discharged or they were forced to leave the military service because upon when people found out that there's sexual orientation, diba? Yeah. I think napakasaklap nun, Win, diba, na tinataya mo ang buhay mo, pinaglalaban mo ang karapatan ng ibang tao, pero wala kang karapatan na magmahal na kung sino ang gusto mo, diba? So that's a common story for almost all of these people. And it's high time that, they are honored for their contribution to their country, for fighting for the freedoms of their countrymen. And I'm glad then, especially the last one, yung one last honoree who is still alive, na she is the highest serving I think LGBT or transgender member of the armed forces. And parang dapat pa yata mag-astronaut pa yata siya or something. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, oo. Kasi usually ang mga tao kapag narinig na nila ng LGBT ay hindi yan wholesome. I remember specifically itong pandemic, merong project. Tapos merong parang you have to read the script. Isa ako sa mga magbabasa ng script. Tapos later on ko lang nalaman na may mga against na mga tao na wag ko daw basahin yung script na yun. Iba na lang. Kasi bandang dulo yung script, medyo mabigat yung line. Sabi nila, wag LGBT ang lagay natin dyan. Dapat medyo fatherly figure. So parang, kasi meron na daw ibang LGBT na speaker sa ibang lines. So, buti na lang, yung director is an LGBT ally. Hindi. Siya talaga yung pinili ko para magsalita dyan. So, meron ganun talaga. So, what more para dun sa mga ibang lugar na, na katulad ng military na very hierarchical, very traditional, very conservative. So, itong news na to ay isang toot para sa United States of America. Yeah. Ikaw ba, by the way, ikaw ba, Quino, nakaranas ka na ng ganyang experience na hindi ka pwede, kahit na kaya mo, pero sinabing hindi ka pwede, tapos binigyan ka na lang ng ibang rason. Pero ngayon, ma-realize mo na, dahil kasi bakla ka.
Actually, meron. I think the one that readily comes to mind was a work experience. So this involved a former office mate of mine. And nalaman ko to years after. Pero nakwento lang to sa akin na I had just entered the workplace at organization, right? Siguro it was on my second or third day. And siyempre hindi ko kakilala yung mga tao, di ba? And they haven't talked to me. I haven't told anyone expressly about my sexual orientation. So people made assumptions about me. And one particular office mate of mine made an assumption that I was gay and asked one of our other bosses na wag niya akong makatrabaho simply because of that.
Oh.
So for a time, I was kind of odd.
Is your office mate male or female?
Ano yan? Sorry?
Is your office mate, was your office mate male or female?
Male. He was male.
Okay.
And so parang, ang weird, kasi you would think na parang harmless siya, pero not really. Kasi in the environment of that, my employer back then, you kind of work in teams eh. So porous yung teams. You work with different individuals on particular subject matter. And so I always wondered, siguro for the first 2 years, bakit never ko nakakasama sa team itong taong to? Parang siya lang yung kain sa isang tao sa opisina na never ko nakasama. And yung pala yung dahilan, di ba? And siguro okay lang kung same level. Start out kasi kami same level eh. Pero at some point kasi na-promote siya, so parang naging boss ko siya. And so, without me knowing, yung pala, may isang boss ako who didn't want to work with me for the simple fact that he assumed that I am gay. I am gay, but the point is, like, he never even bothered to confirm it with me or to tell me directly. Nalaman ko lang through another person years later.
Grabe, no?
So yeah, it happens.
May implication talaga sa trabaho, no? You could just imagine so many people who are deserving of a promotion, pero hindi sila nakakakuha kasi merong hahad lang sa kanila, bakla yan o tomboy yan trans yan, wag mo yung parang makakasira yan sa reputasyon natin. So, may economic implication yan. Siyempre, pag hindi ka na-promote, hindi madadagagan ang sweldo mo. So, para sa mga taong ganyan, magbago na kayo. 2022 na, next year. Yung mga pinag-gawa.
Kaya rin tayo sa chamber. Kaya rin we are actively pushing for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So that's one of our biggest thrusts as an organization. So we engage with and consult organizations on how to make their labor policies more, fairer and more inclusive, diba? And to prevent instances of discrimination like that. And also, discrimination doesn't just happen with in terms of somebody so GSC, diba? It also happens when it applies to people's HIV status. Kasi I've also seen it happen, not in that organization, in another organization, kasi it was referred to me lang eh. So it still happens to this day. Now, people, when an employer finds out that an employee is HIV positive, all of a sudden nagkaka-issue na. Kaya very timely rin na pag-usapan natin ang mga bagay na yan in today's episode of Pride and Proud Asia, where we commemorate and discuss issues regarding HIV because this is our World AIDS Day episode.
Yeah. So that wraps up our Pink News, and katulad nga ng sinabi natin ni Attorney Quino, ang episode natin today ay specially dedicated dahil World AIDS Day yesterday. So habol tayo sa World AIDS Day. And yung mga guests natin, Quino, ay mga stars ng LGBT community. Meron tayong guest na alay at meron din tayong out and proud na yoga instructor na katulad mo na mag-share ng kanilang experiences. But before that, Kins?
Yes, so before that, we'll have to take our first break. So see you after the break.
We'll be back shortly. This is Pride and Proud Asia, only here on V81 Radio, Manila. get into the treasure trove of undiscovered music through Napalm, your new all-Pinoy alternative music. Whether it's rock, metal, reggae, soul, or pop, we have it covered. Napalm features upcoming Pinoy artists and musicians, hosted by Reyes and Thunder God Bernard. So sit back and relax and enjoy Napalm, only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
It's a tough business out there. So many uncertainties, operational difficulties, deadlines. We provide the solutions and services that your company needs at the best price, guaranteed, with our global principles. And experienced partners, we bring solutions to your current and future business. Inolution, supporting your business as always.
Now back to Pride and Proud Asia, only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Happy Pride! Welcome back to Pride and Proud Asia. So for those who just tuned in, our program is the first of its kind, where we put a spotlight on LGBTQIA+ leadership and inspiring stories in business and beyond. I am your host for this evening, your hot attorney-at-law, Attorney Quino Reyes, and I am joined by my amazing co-host, the Skin Sensei, Dr. Winlove Mojica. Happy Pride, Win!
Welcome back. Happy Pride, welcome back. So, katatapos lang natin yung ating pink news, Kino. So, pupunta na tayo sa main event ng show natin. So, katulad ng sinabi natin before the break kanina, na ito ay special episode for World AIDS Day. So, magsimula na tayo para introduce na yung dalawang special guests natin. Attorney Kings?
Definitely, and I am very proud to introduce our first guest for this evening. Babasahin ko to para I don't miss anything. So in 2012, he co-founded a support group for people living with HIV or PLHIVs in northern Mindanao, which led to his involvement in the HIV advocacy and subsequently in LGBTQIA+ activism. In 2015, he assisted in the founding of Lima, a community theater company that primarily performs and features monologues by and about PLHIVs, their loved ones, and people touched by HIV. He was named a COVID-19 hero as Outrage Magazine's Northern Mindanao correspondent at the recent APCOM's Hero Awards 2021 in Bangkok, Thailand. And I would like to add that Stephen is also a proud yoga teacher. He founded Chakra Yoga Studio in Cagayan de Oro, and he is a dear friend of mine in our organization, Yoga for Life. So let's all please welcome Stephen Kilasio. Happy Pride, Stephen!
Hi, happy Pride. Thank you,
Hello,
Quino. Hello, Doc
Thank you for
Wei.
being with us. Okay,
Of course.
So I'll introduce our next guest. Okay, our second guest has completed her clinical and research fellowship on infectious diseases at UPPGH, where I am also teaching, and was the recipient of the Clemente S. Gatmaitan Award for Most Outstanding Fellow in Research. She is the medical director and HIV core team leader of SHIP Clinic, a standalone HIV primary care clinic that focuses on care of people living with HIV and sexual health. Her clinical and research interest revolves around HIV and health of men who have sex with men, or MSMs. She received the Ripple Award in 2017 and the Mabigat na Award na TOIM 10 Outstanding Young Men Award in 2018 for her contribution to HIV public health and advocacy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in. Please help me in welcoming our special guest, another special guest for tonight, Dr. Kate Leiritana. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Win.
Happy Pride,
Hi,
Dr. Kate.
Hi, Stephen. Happy Pride.
Nako, bigatin yung mga guests natin. And thank you for being with us tonight. Pasensya na kung sinabi kong birthday mo. Hindi mo pala birthday. Kasi nakita ko yung tweet mo. Okay.
Salamat though in advance.
Ayan. So, Keens?
So, grabe, our guests tonight are talagang hasang-hasa sa advokasya ng HIV sa Pilipinas, both as, healthcare workers and as, activists and advocates. Kaya we're very, very glad to have you with us. But of course, before we go into the meat of our discussion, we have to ask you, kamusta na kayo? Kamusta ang 2021 ninyo? Why don't we start with Stephen? Kamusta?
Hi, Quino. Hi, Doc Quinn. Well, 2021, thriving. Yun talaga yung one word na i-describe ko for 2021. But it's, of course, grateful pa rin na kahit nagkaganito na 2 years, nasa bahay lang. But, we need to change our perspective din na maging maging productive pa rin tayo even though kahit nag-pandemic tayo. And my family is intact, so okay naman kami. And here in CDO, so far all is good. So yun yung pinakasalamat ko na lang din.
Good to know. How about you, Dr. Kate? How are you? Busy pa rin.
Oo, hindi naman nagbago ang mga bagay. Pero the 2 years have merged into each other. Sabi ko nga, hindi ko alam na ito na palang edad ko ngayon. Ganyan ako ka-lost ngayong taon na to. Pero I'm happy that I am able to still do my job and family as well. We have lost a lot of people along the way, pero proud na ako ngayon sa age ko kasi for me it's now a proof na nakaabot ako ng ganitong edad. So naisip ko rin na hindi ko na siya itatago kahit tumanda ako.
I was gonna say nga, Dr. Kate, wag mo na yung mga quarantine pandemic birthdays, wag natin i-count. Pero good point ka dyan. The fact that we're still standing, let's count those years, di ba?
Yeah. Ako, ang dami kong na-miss na mga activities eh. Sina Stephen, before nakakasalubong ko sila, nagkakasabay yung mga meeting namin na about HIV, LGBT health advocacy. Si Kate, lagi ako ma-attend sa primary healthcare seminar niyan as a attendee and as a lecturer din. So, Kate, I miss that. I hope next year we can do that again, ano? Sayang kasi may pandemic, kahit nga nung advocacy natin, parang ang hirap kumilos kapag nandiyan pa rin yung threat ng COVID-19. So, correct, I echo what Kate is saying that we should be thankful na buhay pa rin tayo. Okay.
Exactly. And speaking of that, regarding our advocacies rin, na parang you were mentioning na we used to have parang these seminars and all. Kami naman ni Stephen kasi we're part of the same organization that offers yoga classes primarily to people living with HIV. The classes are open to everyone, of course, but the main community that we serve are people living with HIV. So we've transitioned to online classes since March 2020. Pero so we still see each other, pero nakakamiss yung mga yoga retreat namin where we'd spend 1 weekend together out of town. And that's where a lot of the magic happens. Where we form bonds, of course, and we try to, help people the best that we can by being there with them. So nakakamiss rin yung mga bagay. Hopefully next year makabalik na rin kami. Di ba, Stephen?
Yeah, kasi nakakamiss na talaga yun. And then, I think dahil din dun, lumaki yung community. And Yoga for Life is, di ba, parang nagsiserve yung Yoga for Life for more than 10 years na din. So, nakakatuwa na dumadami yung PLHIVs who's joining the yoga community as well. And ngayon, sobra nag-adjust kasi nga digital. So, medyo nahihirapan. Pero ano pa din, parang pinupush pa din natin yung PLHIVs to really practice like mindfulness para one way din yan to balance their mental health, diba? It's very important to have that, and also that's mindsetting too, so it's very important din.
And it's a good thing you mentioned, Stephen, the increasing number of people who join our classes or who avail of, services for people living with HIV. Because for the benefit of our viewers, the number or incidence of people who are HIV positive in the Philippines is still increasing despite this pandemic and despite this quarantine. And so, for a lot of people who are not familiar with what it means to be a person living with HIV or to care for someone living with HIV, there are still so many myths and misconceptions. Kaya in today's, we'll get the ball rolling tonight, get to the meat of our episode. So we'll talk about HIV/AIDS awareness and living with HIV in our segment, Yung Totoo. So in this segment, we will be again debunking the myths that are still surprisingly prominent in society, despite almost 40 years since the first recorded case of HIV in the Philippines. And I think latest statistics show that it's around somewhere between 800 to 1,000 cases of newly reported PLHIVs per month for this year. So talagang importante na malaman natin ang mga bagay na ito. What is true, what is false, what is fake news, what is important life-saving news. So further educate everyone who is listening to us today.
Yeah, Quino, you're right. Marami pa rin mga tao ang hindi aware kung paano napapasa ang HIV, na meron ng gamot para sa HIV. Katunayan, kapag meron akong bagong pasyente na sinususpek ko na maaring may HIV, tapos tinulungan ko na in-encourage ko na magpa-HIV test, tapos pagbalik sa akin, reactive. Ang usual na sinasabi ng magulang, Dok, hanggang kailan pa siya mabubuhay? Parang, bakit yun na siya gusto mamatay? Meron akong gamot ngayon, baka mas mauna pa ho kayo mamatay sa kanya. So marami pa rin hindi nakakaunawa kung ano yung mga treatments, mga milestones na nangyayari na sa PLHIV community. So, with that, puntahan na natin ang first myth. Okay? So, yung first myth na gusto sana nating ma-debunk ay, number 1, I can get HIV by being around people who are HIV positive. Marami yan. Lalo-lalo na kapag sinasabi na, uy, may HIV sa LRT. Tapos kala mo naman yung mga tao parang bigla mahahawi na parang nagkumpas si Moses ng kanyang staff na mahawi. May HIV. Pero meron mga story ng ganyan, di ba? So, sinong gustong unang magsalita? Si Doc Kate, tapos si Stephen.
Okay, sige. So, let's debunk that first myth, no? Ano nga ba yun? I can get HIV by being around. So, ang interpretation ko is by being around is presence, no? Physical presence of someone. So, the modes of transmission of HIV, which I feel na alam naman natin lahat, even ng mga listeners natin, because this is very basic. Pero, gusto ko pa din i-emphasize that the main modes of transmission are, first is sexual, so through unprotected sex, be it with the opposite sex or the same sex. Okay. Secondly is from blood transfusion. So it's either direct blood transfusion, which is very rare because of the good screening methods ng ating mga blood banks, and second through paraphernalia, because through blood din yun. So it's either needle stick injury or other paraphernalia. And then third is from mother to child transmission, which we're hoping will be eradicated na because we have so much going on in that field. In fact, we already have AIDS-free generation. So that means even if the mother is positive, you can actually have children who are negative because of the advances in medicine. So aside from those three modes of transmission, wala nang iba. So yung myth of being around through physical contact, hugging, not even kissing, as long as there's no blood-to-blood transfusion, hindi naman kayo vampira, di ba? Para magkaroon ng ganon. And even through sharing of utensils, eating utensils, drinking utensils, even sharing the same toilet. So these hold no issues. So hopefully that will not prevent us from actually when COVID is not around anymore, from doing physical contact with our friends and family with HIV without fear.
Mm.
No, it also helps kasi remove the stigma around it. No, if we know the truth behind the transmission.
May ikukwento lang ako kasi maraming active ako kasi sa Twitter. Marami ako natatanggap lagi niya na question na parang, Doc, nakipaghalikan po kasi ako eh. Tapos, inamin sa akin nung kamomol ko na PLHIV siya. Tapos, parang meron akong singaw or parang hindi ko alam kung nagdudugo yung gums ko, baka nagdudugo yung gums niya. So, ano po ang gagawin ko? Ano po yung risk? Yan yung madalas kong nakukuha ng mga questions regarding HIV kit. So, ano na ikaw? Anong masasabi mo? Kasi sabi mo yung not kissing eh. Pero yan ang parang natakot yung mga tao na, ha? O parang okay lang nahalikan sila na kahit na may dila? Kahit na yung kissing,
Yeah. So this actually helps me make decisions also in whom to provide post-exposure prophylaxis to. Kasi so we already have this way to protect people who were inadvertently or exposed to HIV via the scenarios that we mentioned, no? Kunyari, wala talagang protection and you want to prevent HIV from happening, you give the post-exposure. So with kissing and even oral sex, no, we do not recommend because the risk of you contracting HIV from those things are super low that it's negligible, na hindi na kinakailangan pang bigyan pa ng protection against that. So, yun, hopefully that gives some peace of mind to everybody.
And Dr. Kate, I have to ask, kasi you mentioned, diba, that sexual intercourse is one of the primary modes of diba, of acquiring HIV. So, ang question ko is, anong klaseng sex ba yung could lead to HIV infection? Because a lot of times also some people ask, paano oral sex ba? Or what about anal sex? May ejaculation ba dapat? Yung mga ganong bagay.
Yeah, that's a very common question. In fact, there's a table. No, there's a table that we have that gives you the rate of transmission for each position in sex, and the most common is anal receptive. So in anal sex, you have positions whether you're the inserter or you are the receiver, and those who are receiving through the anal canal are at most at risk from these different types of sex, no? And the risk goes anal receptive, and then anal insertive, vaginal receptive, and then oral sex, which is wala, hindi na nga hindi siya kasama doon, parang ganon. So, the risk is mga 0.32%, 0.14% per 100 sex episodes. So, kumbaga, you think about it, that's not that risky, but it also depends on your partner. So, remember, with transmission of disease, there are a lot of factors involved. There's the host, there's the environment, there's the virulence of the pathogen. So, meaning, if the partner who is the source of infection has a very high viral load, no, because of either an advanced stage of disease or something else, then that puts a different spin in the situation, no? Mas madali makakuha pag ganun. So, hopefully that clears things up also, no, yung different risks ng mga sexual positions.
At saka, Doc Kate, tama ba na kahit na minsan low risk, hindi siya zero risk. So if you continuously do it, like for example, if you have 100 partners, ikaw na nagsabi, sa'yo ko yung natutunan, may mga patient ka na parang, parang contact tracing in sexual activity. Parang minsan hindi ko na ginagawa. Kasi they have more than 100, 200. Yeah. Marami akong makakilala na ganun. So, di ba, pag lagi mo rin siyang ginagawa, the risk increases.
Yeah.
So, I agree with you when you say na parang kailangan i-contextualize mo rin yung parang each scenario na mapupuntahan ng isang pasyente, no? So kailangan talaga nakikipag-usap kayo ng may truthfulness and honesty, and usually mahirap yan gawin, lalo na pag ang doktor ay hindi familiar how to ask the sexual history.
Right.
Kins, yeah, go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
wanna also add yung na-mention ni Quino kanina, like, does ejaculation play a part? So if there's ejaculation in the story, that increases the risk, no? Kasi the presence of the virus could be more, no? Because you have the fluid involved.
Kins, tanungin natin si Stephen. Stephen, based on your work as an HIV awareness advocate, common ba ito na na-encounter nyo among friends or relatives, mga kasama sa trabaho ng isang PLHIV na nagkikwento sila na ganitong mga reklamo na parang people do not want to mingle with them kasi feeling nila magkakaroon din sila ng HIV? Stephen, parang nakamute
Yes,
ka yan.
2021 na. It's super true. And then, yung iba nga, parang may mga assumption pa nga sila na if nasa advocacy ka, parang automatic kang PLHIV. Parang, hindi ba kailangan tumulong ka? Hindi naman. Baka yun. Okay na? Am I audible na?
Yeah. Better, yes.
Okay na. Okay. So regarding the question, Doc Win, ano siya parang yes, it's totoo siya kahit 2021 na people associate pa rin. 'Di ba? Parang ina-associate pa din na ang tawag nito parang akala nila na pag nasa advocacy ka, automatic PLHIV. So ang nakakaloka doon like if I had a lot of non-PLHIV friends na nagvo-volunteer to ang ending, alam mo yun, natatakot na sila because of the chismis. It's stigma discrimination pa rin. So, ang ano doon, and anong, eto, very, i-share ko lang, natatawa nga din ako kasi up to now, sa tagal ko sa advocacy, yung iba, for example, nasa advocacy ka and then you take a photo, may mga talagang, well, the term right now is mosang, di ba? They will ask na, PLHIVs ba talaga sila? Are they part of the community? Parang, ganun ba? Pag may kasama isang PLHIV, you associate people na ganun. I think it's, parang cultural din siya na typical na Pinoy culture natin na makichismis. So, nakakasad na inaano natin right away, not knowing na, of course, we all know that the status is confidential and hindi naman automatic na you are involved in the advocacy and you mingle with PLHIVs, isa ka na din posit. So parang at presently, ano na lang ako na, but of course, it's always the best time and the best opportunity to educate them na hindi ganon. So, ayun.
It's great that you mentioned that, Stephen, na parang it's another part of the stigma. Na yung start tayo na if I am around people with HIV, I will get HIV. And so the other aspect of it is that if you are in the HIV advocacy, automatically you have HIV. So it's a great thing that you mentioned that. And it's also good that I think it's also becoming more mainstream for like celebrities or influencers to be active in the HIV advocacy. Like for example, like Pia Wurtzbach, diba? Because people see na, you see her, for example, she is a beauty queen at Miss Universe. And then you see her active in the HIV advocacy and you think, HIV ba si Pia? Bakit siya nandyan? Diba? So I think it just humanizes, not just people who live in HIV, but those in the advocacy, healthcare workers, people who are involved in these other services, providing services to people with HIV. Kaya importante rin yung mga ganong bagay.
Kins, may tanong ako kay Doc Kate. Kasi in relation dun sa sinabi ni Stephen, nakatanggap ka na rin ba ng mga tanong na, may HIV ka ba, doktora? Bakit mo sila tinutulungan? Kasi madalas yan ang tanong din sa akin. Bakit ka nandyan sa field na yan? May HIV ka rin ba? Tapos mamaya, ano na yun, parang sunod-sunod na pambabastos na yan. But ikaw, nakatanggap ka na ba ng question na ganyan?
Win, personally hindi, although ready ako sa ganyang mga tanong. Pero what is sad for me is that who I am with, if it's a male, especially a gay man, is going to be inadvertently associated with what I do. So ang joke nga sa akin dati yan sa clinic is, ako si Scarlett. Kasi kahit sino kasama ko, magkakaroon ng stigma of having it, especially if they come from the community, kahit na kung ano man ang status nila. So sabi ko, I understand that, and that's why when I go out and I see people, especially my own patients, no, out in a public scenario na usually parang pag kilala mo, hi, ganyan. I don't do anything and I wait for them to acknowledge me. So that's already a limitation on my social life, no, na parang instead of being able to be happy you see someone you know, you have to keep quiet. Sabi ko, oh, ito palang feeling na nadi-discriminate. So it's a shared discrimination that I feel.
Yeah.
Pero kaya when my patients actually go out of their way to acknowledge me and actually be happy that I'm there instead of really avoiding me, parang, uy, okay, he's mature enough to acknowledge that.
Yeah, tsaka ano naman, your kids love you. Alam na alam yan ng mga kids mo, no, na nababasa ko talaga yung mga tweets nila, that they really appreciate the help that you extend to them.
Thanks, but it's all in private. I love you in private, but we're in public, di mo tayong kakilala, ha?
Tayo kakilala, oo. Minsan din, pag ako rin, kunwari, minsan sa restaurant, tapos bigla akong, may tatawa sa'yo, tapos tatawa ka rin, tapos sabi ko, kilala ko to eh. Kilala ko tong tao na to. Tapos, tsaka ako lang marirealize, patient ko pala siya. So, parang ganyan. So, I agree with you. Mas maganda nga siguro na intayin natin na sila yung lumapit para naman hindi sila, hindi sila ma-ostracize or ma-discriminate. Kasi ako rin, in the pag sa derm field, kapag meron akong patient na lalaki, tapos alam na LGBT siya, yun na rin ang nagiging assumption. So parang thank you for reminding me na dapat maging careful ka rin dun sa mga instances na gano'n. Okay, so that's for our first myth. Okay, so we will move to myth number 2. Our myth number 2, oral sex is just as risky when it comes to HIV. So medyo na-tackle na natin yan with regards to myth number 1. So, unahin natin ulit si Doc K. Tapos, yung mga experiences ni Stephen ang pag-usapan natin.
So low risk talaga siya. And what we call it is negligible. Although there have been some history, no, of some people claiming that all they've done is oral sex. And therefore, that's the only way they could have gotten HIV. So we just respect that narrative na lang, no. Although the mounting evidence is that it is super low risk, that we don't consider it. But with other STDs, oral sex is actually a factor. So if you think about it, anong point ba? Sige, sabihin mo oral sex has this risk. Okay, anong solusyon mo? Kokondoman mo yung taong ino-oral sex mo. And how many actually do that, 'di ba? So parang kung magbibigay ka ng risk, magbigay ka rin ng magandang solusyon, 'di ba? Otherwise, magbigay ka ng risk, gamot na lang tayo kung magkaroon sila ng transmission, ganon. So hopefully, there's this thing in the middle that actually makes sense, no, in giving this risk. So because you can't tell them to not have oral sex.
Yeah.
And, di ba? And ano ba lasa ng condom kapag kinakain?
Correct! Di ba? Kaya nga ikaw madalas well, I'm going to speak for my own experience. Kaya ka lang oral sex. Gusto mo malasahan yung balat. Di ba? So parang might as well, dumila ka na lang ng plastic. So you really have to have an open conversation with your patient regarding these things. Kasi yung iba parang, Doc, they're very scared of doing even oral sex. So ako, we discussed them na parang, oo nga, nakakatakot. You can have other STIs. Pero other than that, kailan pag-usapan nyo yun ng partner mo? Kasi kung ikaw lang mag-decide, hindi ka kasama dun sa decision. So parang paano na yung relationship nyo, especially if you're exclusively dating? So ikaw naman, Stephen, how have you have you heard of stories of people parang totally avoiding oral sex, or do you know anyone, at least one person who does oral sex with condom?
Yung naalala ko sa question.
Wait, parang naglalag yata si Stephen.
Madami.
Yeah.
I think mga more than one siguro yung alam ko na talagang yun yung narrative niya about it. So, ang ano na lang, parang of course you need to respect the kwento, 'di ba? So, pero ang nakakatawa doon is, ay, hindi siya nakakatawa, pero eto yung parang naisip ko during na ni-raise yung question is, napaka-timely din siya na, yeah, medyo naglalag ako. Pero okay na ba? Is it fine now? Kanina
Yeah.
it's very okay. Nakaka-suspense ang sagot. Wait, how about that? Is it better now? Quino, the Queen, is it good now?
Yeah. Okay naman, better now.
Salita ka lang kasi humahabol naman din yung sagot mo. May 5-second lag
Okay
lang.
na
So,
ba yung audio ko? Ay, medyo... Okay. So, dun sa kwento, sabi ko kanina, it's I think more than one or sa madami akong narinig. So, lalo na sa mga new diagnosed sa PLHIVs. But habang tumatagal na, parang nalalaman mo and then you get to know their story, lumalabas din. Then ako din mismo, like, from the community itself. Kaya nga. Ano ba 'to? Welcome to the
second lag lang.
Philippines.
So,
Welcome to the Philippines talaga. Ito yung internet natin. Anyway, so regarding the kwento nga, ang naisip ko doon is merong mga PLHIVs na yun yung sinasabi nila na parang they got it from oral sex, and yung iba pa is mga talagang creative na narrative na okay, parang irespeto mo na lang siya na yun yung ano doon. But habang tumatagal din, siguro with the diagnosis, I think it's part of the process din nila na lumalabas din pala na it's not oral sex lang. So okay, so at least from there hindi ka nagbigay ng judgment agad. And ang na-mention ko kanina na from the community narinig ko is eto naman na practice is yung sa oral sex, kasi 'di ba na-mention ni Doc Win na parang yung lasa ng plastic, but with with the PLHIV community and also the positive community na group, ang isa sa parang nagiging best practice nila, mas of course ayaw nila magka-STI, ayaw nila ng any other na infection. So what they did is mas nagpa-practice sila ng condom after the diagnosis. And ang tinuturo din namin for sa advocacy is I think we all know about magic condom. So parang okay, so kung mag-oral ka, kaya may mga flavored condom. So we educate them how to use magic condom. So from there pa lang, tapos tinatanong namin sila, how was it? How was the practice? And how was the experience doing magic condom? And eto, experience-based naman, okay na, hindi siya malalaman. It's not like how you put the condom using your mouth. It's the process. It's the performance per se. So dapat ma-educate din natin yung community na if you really want to protect them from oral sex and other STIs, kasi ito nakita ko siya na effective siya for the community na ginagawa. But syempre merong iba talaga na ayaw talaga nilang mag-condom. Like that's another kwento naman. But ito yung parang mas nakikita ko na magandang practice na for some pill HIVs mismo, ang ginagawa nila is they use condom because they want to protect themselves, and also if they have multiple partners. So magandang practice na dapat malaman ng lahat to know magic condom.
Attorney Quino, itanong natin kay
Doc
Stephen.
Win, magic
Ito yung
condom
magic
is
condom.
ang magic condom is hindi malalaman ni partner or sasabihin mo kay partner na magko-condom kayo, but you use it using your mouth. So ilalagay mo siya dito and then doon na didiretso na. So magic siya, hindi malalaman ni partner na nalagay na yung condom. So it's safer din, 'di ba? Ano yan parang nalaman ko yan years back. Ito kasi yung practices for mga sex workers. So tinuturo din namin siya sa mga PhIVs because we naniniwala kami na kailangan din nila na to protect themselves from other infections. So magic condom really works then for oral sex.
Yeah, ako first time ko yun narinig nung nag-HIV counselor workshop. Tapos, isa yan sa exam. Parang putting the condom by mouth. So talagang nanonood sa'yo yung papa-exam. Gagawin mo talaga siya. Isusubo mo from the penis na
so,
dildo.
So, Doc Win, as I've mentioned kanina, magic condom is yes, okay na.
Yeah.
Ano ba itong natin? Diyos ko, ngayon pa talaga, no? Oh my God. Nilalagay mo yung condom sa mouth mo and then you do the performance. Tapos, yun na. Kaya siya naging magic kasi hindi alam. Or pwedeng alam ni partner or hindi alam ni partner na you're using condom for protection.
Okay, I'm curious. Wala si Win, but I was gonna ask Win about his experience. I'm sure because he brought up his experience sa HIV counseling, diba? And they were actually doing it, in I'm not sure if it's a dildo or a banana, but they actually had to learn it, diba? So I'm sure a lot of our viewers are very interested now in what happens in HIV counseling. Win, sorry, welcome back. I was telling everyone na nagkwento ka about your HIV counseling experience.
Siya, magiging okay na din siya. I think nagiging okay na din siya. Para protection din siya talaga for any other infection. Just for best practice.
Ayun.
Back to you, Quino or Doc Win.
Okay. So I just want to point out though, kasi regarding oral sex, I think I've seen this also in the MSM, men who have sex with men with community over the past how many years. Na parang there's a rise in people who consider themselves sides. And for our listeners, a side is a man who engages only in oral sex, so no anal sex. So I think I've seen this also na parang mas madami na yung who identify themselves as sides. Whether or not they are purely sides or they just want to say it, I'm not sure. But at least that has happened. And I think that's a response also to the idea na the myth that you can get HIV through oral sex, which we've debunked today. But the important takeaway is that you can get other STI, sexually transmitted infections, because of oral sex. So please practice safe sex pa rin as much as you can.
Yeah. Naalala ko when I was doing FB Live before, tapos I was talking about oral sex. As in, meron talagang umalma. Parang, Doc, yan na nga lang ang kinaliligayan ng buhay ko, hindi na ako nagpapa-anal sex. Tapos, kailangan palagyan ng condom. Sabi ko, hindi siya parang absolute na kailangan. Kumbaga, it increases the protection. But of course, kung hindi ka happy, nasa sa'yo yan. But at least, it's an informed decision. So I think yun ang importanteng maunawaan din ng tao that every sexual act should be an informed decision. And paano sila magkakaroon ng informed decision kung walang magsasabi sa kanila? So, maraming salamat kay Steven at kay Doc Kate kasi tinutulungan nila yung LGBT community na makaalam ng mga ganitong information. Okay, so Quino will move to the next myth that we want to debunk. Okay, so myth number 3.
I think, myth number 3, because we've discussed a lot, men who have sex with men, LGBT. But what about, for example, for our straight or heterosexual friends? So myth number 3, I'm straight and I don't use IV drugs. Therefore, I won't get HIV. So, Doc Kate, what can you say about this? So, for example, for our, for drug users, whether recreational or whatever, does that mean that they won't get HIV anymore?
Okay, so there's two concepts, no, in this myth. No, there's the gender identity and then the practice of doing drugs / other risky behavior. So you don't associate one with the other. It just happens that there are eras, no, in time wherein one is associated more with the practice, but that can easily change, no. So example, in the Philippines lang, when we began recording our cases of HIV, we started with more heterosexual, no, transmission, and then I think more women at the time, okay, because so they had exposure from their sexual partners who came from abroad, okay, either their husbands or their partners or their clients in the sex trade, no. And then in 2007, our epidemiology changed, and now we're seeing more men who have sex with men. So it's not defined by one particular gender, but it's by the practices, no, that we have. And if you are straight right now, actually, if you live in Africa, then you are the driver of the epidemic if you live in Africa, because in Africa, it's the heterosexual mode of transmission there that's more predominant rather than MSM. So it doesn't matter who you are. It's really what you do, no? Whether it's through unprotected sex or through drug use. So even drug use doesn't really just relate with a certain gender identity. No, everybody who uses drugs, but not only that, but who shares the paraphernalia. That's what's important. No, it's not whether you use drugs or not, but whether you share. That's one. And secondly, it was found out that even if you don't use drugs, but you have sex with someone who uses drugs, that could be one way to get transmission not only of HIV but also of hepatitis C. No, so I'm seeing that in my patients na they claim to have never touched a needle, but then they might have sex with someone who does. So that's where the thing. So hopefully, that helps you debunk that myth.
Attorney Keynes, let's ask Stephen, and expect natin na may 5-second lag. So wag tayo ma-anxious. So regarding naman sa experience mo, Stephen, as an HIV awareness advocate, marami ka bang mga kumbaga na meet na mga PLHIV who parang are not part of the LGBT community? Meron ba diyan sa CDO na parang sumasama sa inyo na HIV awareness advocate din siya, PLHIV, pero hindi siya part ng LGBT community, either cisgender, male or female? Ayun, nawala si Attorney Quino. Stephen, as in wala ka ng audio. Grabe ang internet. Pero nagchat-chat siya. Oh my God. Oo, hindi pumapasok. So baka mamaya yung lag mo more than 5 seconds. Ayan, nagsasalita ka na. Nawala.
Madami. Like yung iba, my widow, of course, my mom, and then meron kaming na-meet din na ano siya, OFW siya na I don't know what happened, ano yung backstory niya, but madaming mga ano dito, like when the HIV nag-start sa Cebu. Oo. So ayun, parang madami dito sa ano, sa Northern Mindanao, in all fairness lang. Kaya really? Hindi ako naka-mute. Eh.
May delay lang.
Nagche-check nga ako ng ano, ng speed test, eh. Parang ano ba 'yan? Okay naman yung speed test ko, pero chineck ko talaga para to make sure, and then lumapit na nawala na naman? Pero to answer your question, yes. Father, mother, madami dito sa Northern Mindanao. Na na-meet ko na personally.
Yeah. Ako rin, nakamit ako ng heterosexual, si Nanay Elena.
Doc Queen and Quino, yes, madami sa Northern Mindanao na na-meet ko na yung iba father, tapos yung iba mag-asawa, and then yung iba din is mom, and also with the children with the HIV. So yun yung ano doon, parang nakakaano na, it's really the general population yung tinitingnan natin, but hindi dapat naka-focus on one sector lang. Okay na ba? Medyo ano na ba yung
super lag ka, Mars. Super lag ka, Stephen. Anyway, gusto ko lang din sabihin na ako rin personally nakamit na rin ako ng heterosexual na PLHIV. Let me just share itong kwento ni Nanay Elena. Sikat siya sa PLHIV community, di ba? Anong tawag dito, parang OFW siya before, tapos nagkaroon siya ng partner abroad, tapos yung partner niya pala yung may HIV. Tapos, ito yung time na parang medyo bago pa lang yung HIV treatment dito sa Philippines, and ang dami niyang pinagdaanan na abuse, stigma, and discrimination from the time na na-hospital siya, yung mga operations niya. Pero ngayon, naging staunch HIV awareness advocate na siya. Punta siya sa Congress. Tapos ngayon, marami na rin siyang apo, at yung mga apo niya alam na PLHIV siya. So, hindi totoo na itong HIV sakit lang ng mga bading. Anybody can have HIV. Basta may dugo ka, at tapos you are exposed to tong different modes of transmission, sexual transmission, tapos if you share IV needles, pwede ka talaga magkaroon ng HIV. Okay.
And I think when moving from that, yung story ni Nanay Elena, yung kwento rin ni Stephen, stories of people in Mindanao living with HIV, regardless of gender or sexual orientation. If we can proceed siguro to our last and probably our most important myth, which is myth number 4. I am HIV positive. My life is over. So I think this is the most common thing we hear from people who are newly diagnosed with HIV and what their families think. So Doc Kate, how can we respond to this myth, or to when people say that upon finding out their HIV status?
Actually, I am quite happy to not encounter that statement anymore. No, I'm so happy that we've done so much in the span of so many years that I've been in practice. No, it did start with that. No, as I was beginning um, seeing patients in my youth, and then now it's really a refreshing change of atmosphere that when I do ask people, okay, so you found out about your status, how did it affect you? I do ask that because I want to know ano yung kanyang present state of mind. And they say, oh, I've read about it and I do know the risk of my activities in the past. So I have an inkling of that I could probably be at risk, but because of I know there are myths and I know I can be undetectable. So these terms they already know even before seeing the doctor. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the awareness that we've all been doing online. And then majority of this is online. So yung mga keyboard warriors natin dyan, yung mga CBOs, the orgs that have been populating the internet with things that I'm sure even doctors who are not keen on HIV don't know. Hindi nila alam yung undetectable. Yung pasyente mo, alam yung undetectable, di ba? Nakaka-proud talaga yan. So, to answer your question, your myth, it's definitely not true. Okay, we've come such a long way, and even the mindset of the newly diagnosed patient, it has changed. And it brings you hope because you don't have to work with someone so destroyed anymore. So parang mayroon kang may konti kang outlook na he's gonna be fine. No, he's gonna be fine because he himself already has done his due diligence. No, alam na niya hindi na ako ganun makahirapan. Ang mahihirapan ako sa pamilya niya, 'di ba? Kunyari, hindi pa masyadong maalam sa HIV yung family niya. And that patient now has to do all the explaining. So talagang nagbago na ang mundo kasi siya na ngayon nag-educate sa family niya. And that family usually, the parents usually have no idea if they're older. But if it's the younger set of parents, most likely there's hope in disclosing and getting support from the family. So I'm happy that we're here now. But this is not to say for everybody because if you don't have any access to the internet or to knowledge, you would be of the same mindset as the myth na tapos na because ang nakaranasan mo yung kwento ng mga tao sa paligid mo na ang nakita lang nila are the stories, the horror stories of the 80s, in early 90s when there was nothing for HIV but to wait it out. So, in summary, you have the opportunity to be the same. To get if you're in an advanced stage of HIV, you have this opportunity to get yourself back to how you were before if you give yourself the chance and if you help yourself. So us in HIV care, we're just there to assist you, to give you the materials that you need, but all in all, this is really your willpower to survive it. No, cheerleader lang kami, tagabigil na kami ng props sa'yo. Pero ikaw yan, kasi kung di mo inumin yung gamot mo, 'di ba? We can give you everything, but if you don't want to do it, 'di ba, ikaw rin yan. So the first decision has to be your own. Parang I want to be healthy again. So kaya yan. Go for gold.
Great. And I think that's it's maybe siguro let's end on that very optimistic note. Na information is really critical, and educating ourselves is the first step to living with HIV or caring for people who live with HIV. And so I guess on that happy note, we can have a short commercial break and then see each other after the gap.
We'll be back shortly. This is Pride and Proud Asia, only here on V81 Radio, Manila. Here now is the program for the millennials that will showcase young professionals' worth, aspirations, and successes in doing what they believe is right, progressive, and inclusive. Join them as they discover the path to self and societal fulfillment while making a difference. Hosted by empowered and cool millennial Erica Mizon, together with her fellow millennials, they will be making a difference. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
The program that gives you the latest in Filipino business and trend with Norm Challenging Brand, paving the way to be next generation business leaders. This is Talk Shop Asia Next Gen, connecting you to the future. Hosted by business and transformation mentor Rolly Pagaspas, franchise and business coach Don Senita, and beauty and business maven Muriel Villanueva. Jump into the business revolution every Sunday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. with Talk Shop Asia Next Gen. Big Media is all about life's journey.
Yung mga yun, mga bata pa sila dati nung nakakasama ko sila. So ngayon, sikat na sila.
In digital, entertainment,
Maraming salamat po na nabigyan niyo kami ng opportunity.
information, story, inspiration, and experiences. Whenever, wherever you want, welcome. Join us as we push the boundaries of possibility here with Big Media.
Now back to Pride and Proud Asia, only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Welcome back, everyone, to Pride and Proud Asia. Happy Pride. Happy Pride, Dr. Win.
Happy Pride, Attorney Quino. So such a very enlightening episode that we have tonight, our World AIDS Day special episode. And can we call our guests back in the room, Dr. Kate Leiretana and Stephen? Magandang gabi ulit sa inyo. Welcome back. At
Welcome
maraming
back.
salamat sa pagpapaunlak na makapunta dito sa aming Pride and Proud Asia show. So parang final words para sa mga taong nakikinig. Ano po ba ang masasabi ninyo now that we are celebrating World AIDS Day at ngayon ay 2021 na? Ano yung final message? Start tayo with Stephen. Stephen.
Okay na, di ba?
Okay na.
Okay na yung
Better
okay na. Okay, salamat naman. Diyos ko, Lord. Talagang ngayon pa, no? Anyway. Ano lang, very short na naman yung message ko for World AIDS Day na we just have, hindi natin dapat i-celebrate lang siya like every World AIDS Day lang, every December 1. Parang pride lang. So make it like every day, and dapat yung efforts natin continuous lang siya, and dapat wag natin kalimutan na merong intersectionalities sa PhilHIV community, so dapat i-check din natin yan, and of course madaming tumutulong and there is help available. And with the advancement of science, the U equals to UNA movement, at lahat na there is treatment for pale HIVs, hindi na po siya death sentence ngayon. You'll have a beautiful life. Just plan your way ahead kung ano yung gusto mo and follow the treatment. Maging undetectable ka, and pwede mo ma-fulfill yung dreams mo kung ano yung gusto mo. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Dr. Kate, how about you?
I'd like to send this message to the allies out there. I know you're out there. We are called upon to actually pave the way for a more accepting environment for our brothers and sisters living with HIV, for them to be able to reach the potentials na naminention ni Stephen kanina, to live a life that is a fabulous life. It takes an accepting environment, and we are a big part of that. So we should be able to first we should be able to know what HIV is, because our beliefs surrounding it will dictate how we react. if ever we know someone with HIV, and for them to be able to function well and be able to fulfill their dreams, they should be with people who accommodate them and to make them grow. No, how can they bloom when the soil is rocky? So tayo mga allies should be able to water that ground for them. No, because it's really going to be a more colorful world with when everybody is at equal level. So let's make sure that we uphold the principles of equality and acceptance. And if you are that person who's going to be the key in saving someone's life by just being able to listen, to hear someone's story out, and to feel that they are not rejected, and to feel that they are uh, still that their own person despite their status, then kudos to you. Isa kang ally na tunay. Thank you.
Napakaganda na
pang Miss Universe ang mga closing statement natin tonight, Win. And we're glad to end with these statements, actually. But before we end the show, we just like to remind everyone, our viewers, that this program, Pride and Proud Asia, is a platform for LGBTQIA+ and allies to advocate and to promote their businesses and their causes. So if you want to be featured or promoted on our show, whether you are a business or you are or another organization that caters to the LGBTQIA+ community, please feel free to message us or get in touch with us in our online profiles. We always hear stories of successful entrepreneurs and advocates and professionals and those who have broken the glass ceiling. So we'd like to hear your stories. And we will definitely be featuring more inspiring LGBTQIA+ stories in the episodes ahead. So please contact us via VA1 Radio Manila on our FB page. And also the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce via our website. You can see it on the screen, and also our social media accounts on Facebook and on Instagram. We've also reactivated our LinkedIn, I think. So yeah, feel free to message us on any platform that suits you. We'll be glad to engage with you and to promote you in future episodes. There we go. Feel free to email also Pride and Proud Asia. Win?
So thank you very much for joining us tonight. We thank our guests, our very special guests, Stephen and Dr. Kate Leoritana, for enlightening us, and for gracing our episode, our special episode for World AIDS Day. So everyone, please don't forget, Pride is not just during June, but Pride should be celebrated every day. So with that, I'm Dr. Winlove, the Skin Sensei, saying Happy Pride at huwag pumunta sa mga kulob na lugar kasi nakamamatay. And our hot attorney...
How do I top that? I am your HOTtorney-at-Law, Attorney Quino Reyes, saying na kapag may katwiran, ipaglaban natin. Sama-sama tayo sa labang ito. So this has been Pride and Proud Asia. Thank you very much for watching, and happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride!
Welcome to Pride and Proud Asia, Asia's first online radio show that champions LGBT contribution and leadership in business and in our country and the region. Hosted by the Philippine LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Visibility, representation, and empowerment. This is Pride and Proud Asia. Saturdays, 6 p.m. Philippine time. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila. Happy Pride! Tunog Pinoy, Tatak Pinoy, your all hits, all Pinoy digital radio station in South Manila. This is V81 Radio.
Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits, all Pinoy, panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan. Kahit nasaan ka man, ito'y mapapakinggan. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. VA1 Radio, VA1 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, VA1 Radio.